Ah, yes. Okay. The little button says we are now live.
All right. I don't know if I should give an intro of some sort. Just, hello, I'm Katie Room from Perry Apps Press. And I'm
Hello, I'm Fiannawolf, the person that constantly lusts for subversive stuff. I don't want things subverted. No, I want things uplifted.
absolutely friend of indies everywhere.
But now I've only had the monies. If I
Ugh,
had more of the monies, I'd be supporting more indies more often.
likewise.
Yeah, and I will even reblog this on social media. Oh, goody. Sorry, everybody. I've been kind of ignoring half of my Twitter timeline because it's the whole Roe versus Wade blow up.
It like when it first came out, I was so happy, and now I'm ready to move on with to go back to talking about sci-fi
Normal
and fantasy
things,
and normal things. Yeah.
like using books to escape clown world.
Yes.
And
I
yes.
it's been kind of a disappointment to me how many of my like actual friends and even family have been on the opposite side from me on this. It was kind of an eye opener,
Oh
and
boy. Yeah.
I need to go back to my books.
Yep. Yep. And you know what? This honestly, this book is a decent escape. One, because half of the terminology I'm a bit unfamiliar with, so I learn alongside the main character.
Yes. Had you read any cultivation stuff before?
Only a little bit. Like, because it really wasn't on my radar because a lot of people kept saying, oh, cultivation's just like lit RPG, but no, it goes on a different track.
Yeah. Yep. I had read a couple of web novels, um, and I would butcher the pronunciation. But
I think there's more of them on, what is it? Not Gumroad, but Royal Road or whatever it's called.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, because half of these books are starting to make a splash on Amazon, and sometimes you'll see in the blurbs like, "Oh, from the serial series on Royal Road or Gum Road that happened to
Yeah,
explode in popularity."
yeah.
So
No, but when I was talking with Kit Sun Cheah, um, he like his perspective of the cultivation genre was very much in line with what I had experienced prior. So it really was the stuff that I had read was really more lit RPG type stuff than 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 this. This was fantastic.
yeah, it honestly probably my favorite part is when he gets on the bus and they already have trouble and the monster's blocking their path, but he doesn't have the skills quite yet to outright take down the monster, but he does good enough to where it's like, I'm going to distract you, kind of like a bowl with a red flag thrown in front of it, like
Yeah.
here, like
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked that scene too. Actually, that's the one that I chose for the excerpt to feature on our website. I liked it that much.
yeah, and I appreciate the fact that his dad was like, you don't have to follow my footsteps, you just got to kind of discover what you're going to be about. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times, a lot of stories will KO the parents in the first couple of pages, so that way they can go off and quest a young man. It's like, no, you don't have to kill the family to have the
Right.
protagonist have an interesting time.
Yeah. I feel like the YA elements in this were well done, very tasteful. Um, I felt like there was a good balance, especially with the culture that he was describing, especially drawing from real Chinese culture, with the importance of family and of heritage, and um, to juxtapose that with trying to make your own way.
That
I
Yeah,
felt
and
like
I
that
and I
was
appreciated that he didn't really do like big info dumps of like pages and pages. Like, no, you're just discovering little things about this world at the same time the protagonist is. And to me, that's like a kind of tool I enjoy. It's like I don't have to know everything about this world to get invested in it, like right off the
yes,
bat.
yes, absolutely.
Oh boy.
I really liked the setting. I thought that was the part of the draw for me was kind of exploring with the main character.
Well, we'll see. Hey, TradPub could take note. This is how you can introduce other cultures and cult like basic setups without boring your reader with check marks.
Yes.
Because it's not that people don't want to learn about other cultures. It's just that again, most of these people, all they see when like, oh, I'm setting it in a not European area, it's like cardboard. Uh,
Yeah.
Mr. Kit basically, I think the way he describes a lot of this stuff lets you slowly settle into the setting without getting overwhelmed by a whole bunch of different terms.
Yeah. And you can tell he has a passion for that setting in both like the realistic elements and also like his
The more fantastical elements,
right.
like taking out kind of like how what was it, like the 12 Kingdoms did for it's kind of like one of Japan's more well-known isekais or however you say it. um, but even with that, it's like if you take everything with a little bit with the character at a time, yeah, you don't have to beat your reader over the head with stuff.
Yeah.
And for one like kind of setting or cultural setup, they demon might have more than just the biblical Christian view. Like for a lot of Asian cultures, demons can represent other things as well.
Yeah. It really depends on the translations too. Like some people will translate the words into like
Although I think I remember him
European
saying he like
cultural.
translates stuff on, he like translates stuff as he goes. Like he
Hmm.
translates all this stuff into English for us. So you're getting a direct translation from the writer himself.
Right. Yeah. I think that that element of the book, the cultural element, is really something that you couldn't see in Trad Pub these days.
No, because they on it they even though they say they're championing something, they only give lip service to other cultures that they are so called championing.
Yep. And it can't be too I don't know, not stereotypical, but like can't almost it can't be too realistic because then they cry foul cultural appropriation. So
Oh. Oh. Well, yes, don't read lots of trad pub purse puppy darlings. No, read indies that are actually giving you a different cultural outlook on things.
yep.
Like even with the way he has his character go through his basic training, you could just tell the way that he's being tested that these guys want the best of the best.
Yep. Yes. I
And
really
I can tell he's kind of bringing in some of his own personal, knowledge into this too. Because when I usually do fight scenes, even in my series, like I do one or two lines, and then like, okay, that's it. But
yep.
no, he gets into the thick of it.
Yes. Yep. I he he's so his descriptions are fantastic of the different movements. It really felt choreographed in a good way. Um, and whereas I would have said he threw a punch, right? Like,
Yes,
uh,
his fist bashed through the wall, sending splinters everywhere. It's like, yeah,
right,
that's
right.
how I would describe it.
But you can tell that he knows what he's talking about, and I I felt silly even asking in the interview, like, do you do like which martial arts do you do? Are any of these based on real ones? Because it's like obvious that they are, and well done descriptions that show that.
Oh yeah. And it's not like kind of like a choreographed movie in your mind kind of setup where a lot of Western US books they try to pull that off because they want it to be like a movie in your mind, but books can do a lot more than just basic camera positioning.
Right.
Kind of how we were talking with Ishii about that at one point. It's like, yeah, books can do a whole lot more if you know how to write it.
Right. Right. And I would say that he does. That I thought that that aspect, especially the movements, even when there wasn't a clear conflict, right? Like sometimes he's just doing his practicing. The main character is. I keep using he to refer to both the author and the character.
Well,
Um,
honestly, that's why usually with writing you call upon stuff that you do know. Me, I know I'm never going to be a physics expert, so don't expect any hard science fiction from me personally. You might have to go to Mr. John C. Wright for that because he can mix space fantasy with regular physics, at least our world physics.
yeah, yeah. David has a whole corner of understanding that lets his stuff be a harder sci-fi. And when I read it, I'm just like, well, it sounds good.
I'm kind of interested to see how characters get out of the situation. It's the reason why I read Kit stuff as well. The Fist of the 10 Directions. It's like it's like, oh my god, what kind of lovely martial arts are we going to get into today? But no, if I had to have like a style equivalent, even though it's a movie, like some of them were pretty big back when I was younger. Like God, what was it called? Now, because now I'm blanking out on it. But it was kind of like the wuxia kind of action films that got really popular in the 2000s for a while.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of that, but it's a lot more in depth.
Yes. Yep. That book angle, letting you get right into the actual like internal cultivation of it.
And I think he has a good balance of the dialogue versus the action versus some of the description, because even though I have a love-hate relationship with the show don't tell stuff, another guy wrote up something in an article where it's like hyper detailing that can really knock a book out of orbit and like go off on side adventures where it's like you got to bring the reader back to the plot. A lot of epic fantasy nowadays has like 20-30 pages of no plot happening. It's all like set up. Luckily
Yes.
with this thing you don't have that. The Go Quest young man starts off pretty quick.
Yes.
And you get to see what his normal family life was like before all the lovely mishaps that he encounters.
Yeah. I thought that was nice because and important because of that like I had said, that YA aspect of leaving your family to go questing. We sort of get a baseline of his foundation.
And both of his parents are stable. His
Yes.
dad wants the best for him, and it turns out like the dad basically built up the whole entire village, to give back to his village. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty aspirational, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I
I wonder if I should just call the protagonist Mr. Mr. Ming. I wonder how they ultimately they go about that. But no, like even just from the start of it, I just like the fact that all the monsters have specific auras, and you
yeah.
can tell how dangerous they are just by the amount of like energy they got. So I'm like, oh boy, no wonder. And the fact that he does have his own version of prologue in this series, where people become kind of like ascended immortals. It's like that's interesting, but he does it in a different way than what like a Western or U.S. writer would do.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's
Okay.
we would just come up with like, yes, they get a special serum and they'll be able to live for like an extra 2,000 years because of it. Yep, there we go. Uh, but I did find the choice of weapon that he chose, like the sword breaker, basically.
Yeah.
The way he described it, it's like kind of like a big hunk of metal that can completely destroy swords. I'm going to
Yep.
take this, even though it's a training weapon as well.
Yep. Yeah. I'd never heard of a sword breaker before. And I guess they are different. Like if you just Google sword breaker, you're not gonna get the same thing as a Chinese sword breaker because I looked. But from the way that he described it, it looks exactly like it does on Google. And so the the way that it moves and the way that you use it, it makes it so much more interesting than if he'd picked a sword. At least I think so. I mean, I've read plenty of sword and sorcery, sword and planet, sword and everything, you know.
Yeah,
So
because normally the hero will pick the more elegant kind of weapon.
yeah,
In that aspect, he actually shares a little bit of, I guess, the reason why Guts from Berserk has that iconic weapon, because it's a slab of metal that people wouldn't expect somebody to use.
yeah.
So, because even though Berserk isn't my cup of tea right now, I can recognize its merits. Oh. So that kind of reminded me, like, where he's trying to train his spirit, mind, and body to like ascend to this higher plane of like ability,
Yes,
but he's not doing it in a way to tear people down. In his own way, he's very superversive.
yes, yes. Oh, that reminds me of a quote that I wanted to talk about because it. Oh, come on.
Yes, no worries. Like honestly, I have the book pulled up in the ebook viewer right now.
Nice.
So it's like which one am I using right now? Because it actually helps transfer files, or make a regular Word file into like Mobi or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Caliber, yes, Caliber.
Okay.
But I am probably going to put money down to get Scrivener later,
Oh, nice.
once I'm done with the rewrites of my own stuff. And I'm gonna plop it in, and then that way it can be transferred properly. Because I don't know what I'm doing, but sometimes some of my chapters end up messed up. It's like, why is it saying untitled? It's titled.
Okay, so the quote that this conversation made me think of was, I have it on page 250, is what my Kindle says. So this is talking about, now I'm going to butcher pronunciations.
It's okay. I'm Florida woman. I butcher every pronunciation known to man and English.
I'm like looking at the quote. Oh boy. Is it the Lees or the Liss family? That's my
God, yeah, your guess is good as mine. Because unless I hear something translated through an audiobook, because
guess.
for
Right.
years I was saying a couple of words wrong that were supposed to be standard English. I'm like
Oh yeah.
what?
Oh yeah. Me too. That's the risk that you take being a reader. You will know many many words and not how to say them.
Like even with David Weber's stuff with Harrington, Manticore. Wait, how are we supposed to say this? Because I was apparently saying it wrong for years.
Okay, so in times of peace, they beat their spears into plowshares and eked out a living from the dirt, or else assumed a civilian career and melted into the masses. But when beasts prowled and raiders roamed, when the nation called, when the innocent cried out for justice, outstepped the Lees, ready to destroy the enemies of the people with sword and gun and bare hand. And that just really, I highlighted it because it reminded me of like um, Tolkien's theme of ordinary people stepping up in a pinch. You know, the Hobbit who who enjoys being at home and building, you know, a life of comfort, but then is going to step forward when the need arises.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I do appreciate about some more superversive setups, is where the average person is more noble than what current year Clown World is doing.
Yeah.
Then again, Clown World also only showcases certain things. They want you to be demoralized.
Yes. There's no need to consume that.
Yep. It's the reason why, as long as he keeps making stuff, I'll keep backing him on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or wherever else he's at.
Yeah, yeah. You did back this one, right?
Yep.
Had
Yes, I
you
did.
had you read any of his stuff before?
Yeah, the Babylon series, and even the stuff he did with Vox Day.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Because yay, Kindle! Hello, Kindle. But yeah, he's done quite a bit. Like, but he had like 3 different writer names, I think, at one point.
Yeah, I was looking at his website going, "Oh my.
It's
Do
like,
I just refer to him by one or do I reference the other ones?"
oh yeah. At this point, I honestly would either say Mr. Kit or Mr. Che. I think usually what I'm trying to remember if the first or last name on the is like considered the surname. I know sometimes depending on how people write things, the surname is listed first or last.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm it's like I'm confused, but I'm learning.
Well, and it was doubly confusing because like on Twitter he's the Benche, right?
Yep,
And so that puts Che at the end. So
yep.
that made me think that was his family name, but now I'm not sure.
No, I think yeah, I backed his Singularity series on Indiegogo. Back to let's see, Dawn of the Broken Sword. I think I might have backed one of his other Babylon book, Babylon Red, when he was having all the trouble with Amazon trying to get it up. Oh God, it's bad
Amazon is a necessary evil.
at this point, yes. But I've also seen what it can do. Like I confronted search algorithms every day, trying
Yeah.
to unearth more indies. Oh man, what was it called? The Covenant Chronicles? Come here, Kindle. You better tell me what this other book is.
How would you say his other stuff compares? I haven't read any of his other.
I would say his Babylon series is definitely more of a urban horror
Okay.
thriller, and it does have a little bit of cyberpunk added to it. But he really does have his own type of wheelhouse. Like there's certain things I want for Up the Protocol, but he has a certain kind of wheelhouse for all of his books too.
Yo.
But the one core thing that does hold a lot of them together is he does have genuinely heroic characters, even if the setting itself is a bit more gritty.
Yeah. That is I think the best aspect of the getting into indie stuff.
Okay, here we go. I found it. No Gods, Only Diamonds, which is Diamons. He did it under as Kai Y Che for Vox Day's uh, publishing house.
Okay.
But that was that was kind of like an urban fantasy alternate Earth setup where this like hidden group fights a bunch of different otherworldly demons and things like that. Back when some urban fantasy was exactly what it said on the tin and not a Laurel K. Hamilton train wreck. So yeah, like that one has, I think it has a little bit of the cultivation aspects, but you see more of it with the heroes where they basically build up their abilities so they can punch out Cthulhu. You know?
Yep. Yeah, you really do believe that the characters are capable by the end for sure because of the constant diligence in uh, cultivating their skills.
Well, that and what I appreciate is he tries to put a bunch of characters together that can cover each other's weak points. Because not everybody's going to be a jack of all trades that excels at everything,
Yeah.
unless you pull a CJ Corella with his lit RPG series and have somebody that has an accidental god mode. But
Right.
even then, he has to throw other types of difficulties in that person's way.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would you say was your favorite character from this?
Um, Surprisingly enough, I would have to say Ming himself, just
Really?
because when it comes to when you're initially introduced into to a character, I like the main point of view where you do discover little things about that world. And he is kind of a little bit starts off as like an everyman character.
Yeah.
He does have some specialties, but he does have to work up for some of it. He's not quite a chosen one. That trope and tool set usually has a different connotation to it. You just get a sense that he's a hardworking guy that just wants to excel, but you know he has to work for it, because that's a part of the narrative tension that can either make or break for some people.
Yeah.
Like some people don't like chosen one narratives because the chosen one is handed a few things in their path to help them succeed rather than on just their own merits.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, I liked Ming. I think he makes a great main character for sure.
Because yeah, for me, if I can understand some side characters getting some limelight and getting really really popular, but if I can't stand the main POV character, then I won't be able to hang in there.
Yep.
Skyward, Mr. Sanderson, she is like the worst.
You
The
know, female main
worst.
characters are really tough for me. They're a tough sell. I especially Dread Pub. I've had a real hard time connecting with female main characters.
Well, it's because it's the whole man with boob syndrome. Like at least with that's another thing I appreciate about his work here. He actually understands the dynamic of men and women and what they need to do to actually succeed, like what each other's strengths are.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I do find it funny that all his life savings only would be good for a couple of months in the big city.
Yo. When I was reading that part and thinking about what you would need financially to move from outside the city to the city for the very first time, I was like, it was a little too real for a minute there.
And that's a little touch where because I know a lot of reviewers say, "Oh, this person was so relatable," and I've even begun to hate the word relatable because in most cases, relatable means sad sack protagonist that has no redeeming features,
Yeah.
and they want you to feel even more sorry for them than most people feel for the standard person.
Yeah.
It's like I don't read to see that in a
Yeah.
story.
Or they want them to just be empty so that you can step in.
Yeah, the whole God, even though I hate to mention it, Bella Swan was basically that's the why she was popular.
This is just a puppet for you as the reader to
Oh,
experience all of the thrills of a vampire romance.
oh, thank you, Mr. Che, for not putting like wishy-washy harem romance in your books. Thank you. Because unfortunately, that is a problem with a lot of lit RPG. They do go the harem route.
I was about to mention that. It was a real possibility.
No, help.
Oh man.
But no, I gotta admit, yeah, like a lot of the fighting setups that he does put into his books, I'm not really one for prolonged fights, but he describes them in such a way where you're not really bored.
Yeah, not at all.
Which is a hard thing for me because most of the time I'm like with the pulps where it's like it's a couple of lines and like yes, the fight is over.
Yeah, there's definitely a range of of needed skill if you're going to go very long with a fight scene. And I feel like Che has it spot on for what he's capable of doing. I thought the fight scenes were probably the best parts of the book.
And even though it was covering some of the more mundane aspects of this world, it wasn't done in such a way where your eyes glaze over. a lot of traditional publishing opens up with a bunch of conversation where it's like you're not even invested in these characters yet. Where's
Yeah.
the hook, you know?
Yeah.
And for this particular book, the hook was just in the fact that it's like, wait a second, the parents aren't dead. It's an interesting world, but wait, the parents can function like normal people.
Well, and the cool thing about that is you can believe that Ming is has that strength of character and that honor and um, follow through, because you know that his family is there supporting him. And um, something that is in our current culture sometimes portrayed negatively is that, but
Like,
is
yeah, you have to
shouldn't
move on
be
from your family. You're no
right,
longer a single unit. You're four different houses. You're four different cars. You're four different like
right.
mortgages. I'm like, oh no.
And like, not just that he has the support of his family, but they have expectations for him, and they're good. That's good that they have those expectations that he is going to behave in a certain way and reflect well on his family. That's not unreasonable. You know, sometimes in our culture, it's like, oh, if your parents have expectations of you, then they're putting things on you. You know,
Yeah, I didn't really get a sense of that from the dad. His father just seemed to be like, I want you to be able to discover more about yourself. You don't have to live up to my expectations, or
sure,
rather my legacy. You have to go out there and create your own. But we'll be there to help you. It's not like he
yes,
threw his it's not like the father threw his son to the wolves and be like, go live free. It's like, no, he made sure it's like, okay,
right.
you have your knives.
There's not that.
Okay. It's like his dad was
Right,
getting
right.
him prepared.
There's not like specific expectations, like you will do X, Y, and Z, so much as behavioral. You're not going to sit on your ass.
Oh, but one particular quote that I did highlight. Thank you, Kindle. Kindness is repaid with kindness. Evil is repaid with evil. Very simple and straightforward.
Yep.
This is a protagonist that lives by that kind of creed, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why he's always, and his kindness, his basic kindness, isn't seen as naive, like being naive or weakness. That's a big problem in a lot of U.S. Western based stuff nowadays. Is they do see kindness as a negative. They do see kindness as a crutch, and they're like, no, a actual anti-hero would be this. And it's like, that's why I don't read anti-heroes, because
Right.
they pretty much straddle that line between good and evil, and more often than not, it's just an excuse for the writer to be like, I like writing evil things.
Yeah.
Let's make a character that goes across the line for the supposed greater good, even though he ends up making it worse. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
looking
It's
at you, Expanse.
starting a conversation about morality, and like I don't need that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oof. But that's what I appreciate about his books is he has very straightforward notions of like, this will give you good karma, you know, versus this will give you bad juju and it's evil to boot.
Great. I grabbed my Kindle real quick because I thought of something, and then I pushed the button, and my Kindle was already on, so now I have to turn it back on again.
Well, it kind of
Um,
goes in sleeping mode.
yep. Another quote that I had highlighted that is kind of goes along with that simple, straightforward uh, way of thinking. It was as if he had stepped back centuries into the past, back to the glory days of the Celestial Empire, where might made right and the righteous were mighty. So just simple, straightforward.
And I like the fact that, because usually on our side of the aisle, it's more like, oh, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But what if you had people that were righteous enough to where they use that power responsibly?
Right. That what if there was that just this is
They
the way
can't
it is.
conceive. It's sad. It's like other cultures can conceive more of a Superman type character than the U.S. can nowadays. It's like,
Yep.
wow. Guess I know where I'm going to get my aspirational characters besides indie outlets.
Yeah. Yeah. We're outsourcing our values and uh, uplifting themes to cultures that we aren't necessarily on the same page with about everything, but we're more on the same page with them on a lot of stuff than we are with Tradpub for sure.
Yes, and at least in indie land, sure, people could make a lot of grammatical mistakes and maybe some editing mistakes, but at least their heart is in the right place usually. They want to entertain.
Yes. And shouldn't entertainment be entertaining?
Even if you're entertaining people about other cultural ideas. Isn't that what books are supposed to be for? To help get us across the cultural barrier and understand things?
Well, this was certainly the first book that I'd ever read that was like it's I don't know if I want to say marketed as, but Amazon has it listed as number one in a lot of uh, things like other religious fiction and stuff. I I had not ever read anything that was like that before.
Yeah,
And
and I only know the bare minimum even with about Buddhism, let
right,
alone
me too.
Taoism. Like that Taoism is a completely foreign concept to me.
Yeah,
But this book made me look up things. And
yeah.
hey, if a book makes you do that, that's a good sign.
Well, you're learning without feeling like you're being taught. If that makes sense.
Unlike school.
Right.
Hmm. Homeschool your kids. Homeschool your kids.
So little bunny trail here. I was public schooled up through 5th grade because my dad's a public school teacher in elementary school. So I went to the school that he taught at up through 5th grade, and then my parents pulled me to be homeschooled after that. And so I have the very mild middle of the Midwest elementary school experience to compare with my homeschooling experience. And I can tell you, even at that level, it was night and day difference, so much better.
I'm going to tell you this. Like, the only reason why I'm still reading books nowadays is because my parents let me read whatever I want at home. And I read a lot of their old books, like from when they were kids. Because, man, the stuff that schools give people to read, even back in my day, oh, Tale of Two Cities nearly ruined any love of reading I would have had. And I like The Christmas Carol. So I was
I
looking at this book versus The Christmas Carol. I'm like, how did the same guy write this?
I can't do Dickens.
Because I thought Christmas Carol was a pretty decent pace. It kept my attention. It didn't overstay its welcome. But
Yeah,
Tale of Two Cities overstayed its welcome from like the very first page.
agree. Uh, A Christmas Carol is a pretty good one,
Oh
but
man.
I I
Okay. Here's another fun thing from his book. Like I thought the trainer's reaction to his weapon was like, that's not a formal part of the curriculum. What is that thing?
yep.
uh, uh, so you know what? Maybe in a way, him picking that weapon, that was kind of a signature standout. Something to differentiate himself from other people aspiring to like bigger things.
Yeah, I liked I liked that it turned into something bigger. Spoiler alert. Um, I felt like it was almost like symbolic of the connection that he had with his family, right? Like this sword has been passed down and it's not
It did
just
mighty things too.
it's not just, washed up. It's going back to the importance of that his parents play, the role they play in his development, and that they're not dead. It's not something that was merely
And I don't
the
know if,
best that
again,
he
if
could
I'm
take
saying
along.
this right, but the fact that your Gion has 4 edges, well, I'm almost like it's like, wait, what's that three-headed bird thing doing here? It's like, uh, they were looking at it like it was a foreign kind of instrumentation, even among a land of really foreign ideas
Yeah.
or mystical ideas.
That's fantastic. Oh, shaking my
Better to
tape.
fight with your bare fist than with a blade you don't know. It's like, but dude, you're assuming that Ming doesn't know anything but he does know what he knows.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
even told his father, it's like, I know I'm making the right choice. And the dad was like, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Because even though he didn't realize it at the time, Ming actually knew himself a bit better than he realized, even at the start.
Yeah. Oh man. This was a really good book. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
It's what Disney's brand tried to do to impress Chinese theaters, but did not.
But failed.
You know what? Honestly, I think most outlets should hire more pulp rev people, but we are wrong thinkers, so they won't.
Of course not. How could we think in
Uh,
contrary to everything, from, as apparently we've just revealed on Twitter, from toilet art to Roe v.
to
Wade to
oh god, those kids that glued themselves to that Van Gogh painting. Uh, but but just picturing this big hunk of metal that can do all these things, it's like he doesn't have to stab people with this thing. The sheer crushing weight of it will cause fun times to happen.
and going back to what I said earlier, I really enjoyed that unique uh, aspect of the fighting, because it wasn't a sword. It was he had to use it differently. I thought that was really fun.
Well, yeah, because and generally in most of these things, you expect the hero to have kind of like a weapon of more finesse, especially if it's a bladed weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like he brought the sword shaped kind of version of a mace
Yeah.
to a fancy fight,
Yeah.
and he's going to learn how to wreck people with it, but righteously.
Yeah, precisely. Let's see. I'm trying to formulate a thought here, because in the interview, Shay was saying how he was trying to comment on power, and I think that is the sword breaker is an interesting tool for the main character to wield in light of that theme that the author is trying to tease out, because it isn't that weapon of finesse that
People are expecting.
typical. Yeah.
Hey, side note, that's how you use subversion in a good way.
Yep. Oh, so this is going to be a 6-book series. That's very specific number. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
And as long as you have a ending set in mind, well, you know what? It won't even overstay its welcome. It'll be just right. Just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
I'm excited to see some more of his monsters. the how they scale up, because I think there was only like 3 or 4 in this,
And
and
you know, the one from the opening with the bus is gonna make a comeback
it
because you
seemed
don't put
like it like recognized him and was like filing him away. Gonna come back to
well,
you.
what makes me think that he's going to come back is because the way he described the fact that it had greater level of power than something of its particular make and model.
Yep.
So it's like it's going to have a beeline on the protagonist later.
You know, and it's got like this burning gaze as he's like driving away in the bus. That's not going to be the end of that one.
Nope, nope, nope. In fact, I think it'll be even more memorable than the. It's not a chicken from what's his face's Sort of Truth series, the Terry Goodkind. Because even though Terry Goodkind's books, it's like I wouldn't recommend it for kids at all. But the chicken line stuck with me. It's not a chicken. Yes, it's an evil chimes kind of monster. Uh huh. Oh dear. Oh my goodness. Now, and sometimes the way he describes things is pretty funny. Note to self: get buy earplugs. Because I like to do that with my own characters every once in a while. They just make self-referential kind of like, I have to do this later, don't I? Yes, yes, you do.
Yep.
Yeah. All in all, I'd say it this whole book series, like even the rest of his books, he's made a name for himself, I think, and also his pattern of writing is pretty unique to himself. Because a lot of times, especially if you're trying to write to market or that whole mindset, a lot of people's stuff end up kind of melding together.
Yeah, I agree.
When we read a Kit Sun Cheah book, you know you're reading one of his books.
I have to read some more from him. Um, I think it was TJ Marquise who actually recommended this one to me, and I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, a lot of people do try to mimic certain things, but you could tell he just has this presence in his writing where you know that he knows what he's talking about.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
like reading his Twitter threads, it's like, this sounds kind of familiar.
Yep, pretty much. It's like we know what's going to happen now. We're going to get some more big time insight.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Do you think, um, so the ending, spoiler alert, do you think he's going to turn Gazan? Is that how you, the Yoon, right? Is that,
Yeah, I think it's Yoon.
do you think he's going to be an antagonist based on that closing?
Mm, I think it's a little bit too early to tell.
I know.
Because even just to compare it to what 12 Kingdoms was doing with certain characters, some of them were acting within the parameters of that particular setting, even if the reader or viewer didn't understand all the nuances of that setting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a little bit on the fence. It's like I'll do a wait and see approach.
I'm like hoping that he's not, because I really liked him.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you don't sometimes depending on the character type, you don't really want them to go the path of like, oh no, here comes the heel face turn.
Yes.
No, no, make it a double heel face turn, so that way they can still remain on the side of good. And they were only fibbing so they could get information about other factions.
Yeah. I really liked him. I thought his headlong approach was made a good foil for Ming, who is so careful, and he did a lot of thinking ahead of time about how how he was going to approach things and where he was in relation to other people, and Gazan was just like, I'm going for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I still think it's a little bit too early to tell, but it could end up being where it's a more kind of like a relationship where they push each other to
Yeah.
go forward. Because there are some people that have a like more of a relationship like that where they're constantly not needling each other but driving each other to become better.
Yeah. Yo.
Kind of a more basic way is with the My Hero Academia
I was just going to
with
reference.
those two. uh Bakugo would be, I would say, if he wasn't as irate as he is, would probably fit that kind of foil.
Yeah. Yeah. The anime rival type.
But
Someone who,
in a and also in a way, before Griffith decided to be like, I'm gonna cash in all the chips, he kind of had that kind of relationship with Guts. They pushed each other to like
yeah.
rise higher.
Yes. Yeah.
And before all the falling out of evil eclipses. Oh man.
That's something that we're sort of missing in our uh, I don't know if it's the way that education is set up or whatever, like how private grades and stuff are, uh, and how and like the participation trophies and stuff. The aspect of finding someone to compete with as a way of aspiring and achieving greater heights is kind of lost.
Yeah, it was because they're trying to get rid of foundational archetype aspects that have been around since we drew animals on walls in the
You know,
caveman days. Like, there's no way you could be 100% original. You can make your stuff a little bit more original by doing it in your own way, but there's been every kind of story combination under the sun.
yo,
But
I
just to let you all know, though, there's a little preview for the next book at the end of the first book, so you're not quite left hanging. But no,
uh,
it really though it doesn't end on a big cliffhanger, because I know that can get some readers. You'll get a complete story out of this. It's just it opens up a wider world.
yeah, yes, and in a way that makes you excited for more, for
Yeah,
sure.
because nowadays, especially if you're a whale reader stuck with like a 20-book series, a lot of writers for longer series like to do that big cliffhanger special at the end. And if you don't have another book lined up within like a month or so, then that reader's going to get ticked off.
Yeah, the I as a high schooler, I was a just a voracious reader, and I wouldn't even touch series that weren't finished because I was afraid that they were going to do that to me, and I would have to wait for a year at least before the next book came out.
Yeah. I remember looking at. Oh, here we go. Another highlight. He was a nomad, a descendant of nomads. His childhood home was a tent wandering across the steppes. It's like that gives you a pretty good visual indication of the kind of guy that Gazan is. It's like,
Yeah,
ooh, he has that wild wanderlust in him.
yeah. Ah, I really liked his character. I thought that he was, of the male characters, probably the most attractive in my opinion. He just was like very very that wild aspect that but he too was very disciplined. He's always practicing. He's much more secretive than Ming, but he is also putting in the work.
Yep, he's kind of like that ensemble dark horse that people will probably find themselves liking.
Yo,
Oh My goodness. But yeah, I do like the fact that he mixes in some modern kind of like cityscapes that you would expect, but then adds in a little bit of the science fiction and a little bit of the fantasy, kind of mixes it in a blender. It's like, have fun, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. I liked the city quite a bit. When he was first describing it, I was like, "Oh, are we going to be stuck in urban sprawl?" Like, but it turned out to be very um, like inspiring, like to my imagination about the place. The overlap of like city with fantasy with future tech with with the
Kind of like enough familiarity, but
yeah,
it also had its fantastical elements.
yeah,
So that way you could get a clear picture in your head, but then you can also picture all these, demons and various, like Yoma, yokai, and all that stuff existing alongside all the characters.
yeah. I felt like it was a different approach to a futuristic city. That's probably why I was so excited by it. It, it felt like instead of moving towards a sterile, um, everything's been already been discovered sort of sci-fi future, it was still the door was wide open for magic and monsters and mystery. And I think that's why it was so um, stimulating to my imagination.
And this is why I like it when the pulps and everybody else, mixes and matches things into a giant blender.
Yes.
I mean, hard sci-fi does have its place, but I also like science fantasy, space fantasy, things that are like, oh, okay, let's see, 2 parts Hobbit, 3 parts Dragon. Oh, let's put some lasers in there.
That's what I think is cool and blend for 2 minutes, see what comes out.
Space dragons with hobbits riding alongside them. It's like, okay, that works for me.
Yep,
Uh,
I'll take it. Oh,
oh, and yes, everybody, guess what? If you do read a little bit, because I didn't think to read the preview for book 2, it mentions our guy Gazan right there.
I
But
didn't read the preview either.
but yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I put myself down for the whole series. I'd
Oh,
have to go
nice.
back and look at my Indiegogo thing, but I think I did if it was offered.
I'm
So many projects, so little time.
yeah. I how so you back a ton of stuff. How well do you keep up with actually like reading through?
Uh, I would say I'm at least 6 to 8 months behind.
Oh,
Mainly because like I'm trying to keep up my promise of leaving reviews every day. I don't always
yeah.
succeed because Amazon will either, oh, we'll post that within 3 minutes. Oh no, we'll take 3 days.
What is
I,
it with
I
Amazon?
don't.
Like, what is their algorithm doing that is so varied? That doesn't make any sense to me. I saw your post about that.
Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Like I assume and trust that there is a method to the madness. I just wonder what it is.
There's some points where I think they really do have people on Amazon end of things that prevent reviews from posting faster.
Yeah,
Like if you're lucky, you might end up getting a moderator that might just okay your review, like click, 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 done.
yeah,
And then sometimes some of them might. Maybe it's not always malicious, but part of me just wonders.
yeah.
I truly wonder.
I need to get better at actually leaving Amazon reviews. I've been I've only done the blog reviews since I started. Um, and I know that Amazon reviews are important to the authors. So I just need to write short versions, post them underneath the
Yeah,
book.
because their algorithm. I mean, I'm looking at the stuff underneath Kit's books here, and they have books that are recommended that have like 50 plus reviews. There's some where it says, "Oh, this is a new release," and then there's others where you see like, "Oh my god, it got 1,500 reviews. What?" So, and I guess even I'm going to start just leaving like ratings initially, and then catch up with the written review.
That's a good
Because
idea.
I'm wondering if that will help out too. Don't you know if you don't have the immediate time to like leave a review with like book good read please, then you can easily just do a global rating because like you look at it is they do count ratings and also the reviews as well for using the algorithm to shove it in front of your face.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I can do that right from my Kindle too. I always that pop up, you finished the book before you leave.
Yeah,
I,
it's like here, yes, I will leave this rating now
yep.
because that really is the lifeblood of a lot of books.
Yes. And I know that sometimes those kinds of things drive people nuts. Is like they left a rating, but they didn't say anything about it. But it's better than nothing, right? So, and then I can always go back and leave a fuller review when I have time.
Yes. In fact, I'm going to be doing that with some of my other reviews because I've noticed that me trying to do like, oh, this is like Babylon 5 meets Star Trek, even to myself now, it doesn't really help me anymore. So I'm going to just try to go back and
Right.
redo things and be like, this is what I liked about this book. I like the fact that the characters have X, Y, or Z and that they work together as a team,
Yeah.
because a lot of that stuff is more refreshing. Like you could
Right.
tell, like most of Pulp Rev and even the Superversive guys, they want to see more teamwork out of the protagonists in their books and not just have a ton of internal drama of like, can they trust them or not?
Right. Well, and even to the negative reviews on some of these guys' books, it's like, well, sold. I'll take a copy,
Yep.
because they talk about what they don't like, and you're like, oh, well, I do like those things. So if we could
Yep.
write reviews that are like the opposite side of that, what we do like, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so that's my big plan because I'm not usually one for reading too much like lit RPG or even too much cultivation stuff. But you know what? Usually, if you find somebody where you like their other work, it's highly likely that you'll like other settings that they do, and
Yep.
that's how I got into a lot of CJ Carella's stuff as well. He did a superhero prose setup that I really enjoyed, the new Olympus saga, and I'm like, from there, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read more of this guy's stuff.
Yep.
Same goes for Mr. Kit. It's like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because I actually did find his stuff through since everybody was like, oh God, Vox Day is the boogeyman. And then I took a look like wow, look at this cover for this no gods only daemons, and I'm like, that looks pretty badass. It's like I'm going to read this because
Yeah.
on the cover the guy is in kind of like an armored setup, like what you would see out of like a paladin type deal, except the helmet has a little bit of the spiked horns on top. But the guy is like stabbing demons with like a sword made of light and steel. I'm like, yeah, I'll go for that.
Yes,
So sometimes
absolutely.
covers do sell a book.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yes. I let's see. Trying to think of the last cover that I was like, oh, it was probably um, the Drosselmeyer books. I don't know if you've heard or read of those at all. Um,
No.
so Paul Thompson, his Twitter handle is the hairy chested libertarian, and so like I have to actually like think about what his real name is. um, he wrote, he's just released his second book in the series, um, and it's based off of the character of Drosselmeyer from the Nutcracker ballet. So the covers for those two books are fantastic. And um, when I um, when I first saw them, was like, oh, that's really cool, and so I bought it.
That seems to be the modus operandi of most indies. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, please buy book. You enjoy book, yes.
The first, I think it was the first book that sort of got me into this whole like writing scene was Adam Lane Smith's Gideon Ira series, and that the first book in that like has his like armored knight with like the half cape sitting like heavy metal style in front of like just a mound of like demon bodies behind him. I was like, yep.
Honestly, I'd probably recommend the what is it, the Monster Slayer series of stuff.
Oh, sure.
I think you guys would have fun with that. You sure do. You sure love your bayonet, don't you? And I'm probably going to mess up the name like always. Sai remarked. I told you we should have gone on into its nest. Gazan said. I could have put it down with one blow. Oh, but can you process an entire bashi with one blow too? uh, he does tend to bite off more than he can chew, but hey, that's how you end up gaining in power. But it's kind of like a balance of how you regulate that power with your growth.
Yeah. Oh,
There we go. Linking more of Kit's books there on my feed. Everybody will be a happy camper finding some more books today.
oh. So my daughter is 2, and finding decent kids books is like I'm pulling stuff from back when I was a kid and farther. Like I think probably some of my favorites that we have are um, little golden books illustrated by Eloise Wilkin. Like,
Oh,
um,
if they haven't read it already, the Boxcart Children, the original books are pretty good.
well, she's 2, so she probably won't get too much from those quite yet.
Yeah, well, still, because my mom used to read me those books when I was real little, and then
Sure.
eventually I started reading them on my own.
Yep. Yeah. But I that's exactly the kind of thing, like I'm reaching back that far for decent stuff to share with my kids. I can't trust that anything that I pull off the shelf is just going to be good, like not just entertaining but also not subversive.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think everybody's gonna enjoy the second book because it's Kazan versus Giant Snake.
Ah,
uh,
how can I say no?
there you go. Oh. Now, I just wish I had even more time to even read more, but like that's the reason why I'm trying to rotate through a lot of people too,
Yeah,
and try to share some reactions on my feed. It's
nice.
like thank goodness for Audible books because it's just like I would be like about 2 years behind if I had to just rely on my own reading speed right now because of all
Yeah,
the writing. Yeah. So yeah, it's like I consider it a nice break when I just sit down and read a chapter or two of somebody's work that I respect. And yeah, you could definitely tell, like the more people you read, you could definitely tell what kind of ideas that writer really enjoys. Because I
yeah,
think we all have kind of like our own little footprint of like, you could tell she likes whodunits. And then this one over here really loves having, snapping dialogue in and out of battle.
yeah.
Or like, but in Kit's case, he doesn't really have the protagonists or the various characters talking while the battle's happening. He might have them think about something or two, but not to the point where it's like, how did they have enough time to have 2 pages of dissertation in the middle of a fight?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Well, and his characters are characterized by great focus. I feel like so that makes sense that they wouldn't necessarily
they're
have.
not going to have trad pub like character conversations in the bar or in some sort of restaurant while the action is happening.
Yeah.
And they even have wheels and wheels of dialogue in comic books nowadays for those types of setups where it's just like, why are you guys having all these conversations during a battle?
Yeah.
Save that for later. Save that for the downtime.
It's like the I don't know if it's like it's coming out of the MCU as yes, I said that right. MCU, the from like the movies, the way that has become popularized, snappy dialogue back and forth,
Yeah,
while punching things like that. That seems like a recipe for disaster.
yeah. That's the reason why. The only time that sort of stuff even pops up in my own work is when the villain is trying to monologue, and the heroes let the villain monologue because that gives them time to be like, okay, how do I defeat you?
Yep.
Oh, but yeah, I just hope that this helps, Mr. Che sell more books. I really
Yeah,
do.
me too. Me too. I really hope that well that's why I'm running the indie spotlights for each month this summer. Is I really would like to see more people exposed to uh, indies and to give them a try and to deep dive into something recent that has come out maybe is maybe a little bit different from stuff that people have tried before. I think probably a lot of people haven't tried cultivation novels before, but this is a great book regardless of the genre that it's labeled with. So people should try it.
Yep. And I have to keep telling myself even that with some certain post-apocalyptic setups because not all of them are doom and gloom. It's just a majority of them are.
Right.
But that's why we have samples, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I had on my Kindle for a really long time Mouse, which I reviewed probably a couple months ago now at this point. And it just sat there and sat there because it was dystopian fantasy. And I was like, I don't want to read anything dark and gritty. And I wanted something, I was in the mood for something uplifting and fun. And the word dystopian just did not say that to me, but it turned out to be.
Yep.
Way
And
more.
sadly, that's how most of the book blurbs are nowadays. They're like, oh, this is so dark and gritty and realistic. It's like, no, bye. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Nope. And then I end up won't giving something a chance because of the way that the writer is selling their own work. It's like, it's invaluable though, because I'm figuring out what I want to do later when I put my stuff up.
Sure.
Oh boy. But no, I can. But at least with Kit's books, I know I'm in for a more heroic ride, no matter what kind of setting he has his characters in.
Yeah. And Ming was extremely heroic. I really enjoyed his character development and his character arc because I felt like he was
But see, I think characters like him are important because if you have somebody that is kind of even keeled and straight laced like he is, then that will means all the characters around him can stand out for other different various reasons.
yes.
You kind of need that dynamic because as much as people crap on, aspirational heroes like Superman, his side cast wouldn't stand out nearly as much if he himself wasn't such a straight laced character.
Yeah.
At least in the olden days.
Yep. Right. We don't even have to talk about what they're doing now.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! No! Oh no! I try to stay away from the anger merchant stuff. I
Right.
blow up every once in a while, but oof. Oh goodness. In fact, I'm looking through my email. Like, what did I? Let's see. What did I back on Saga? A Saga here. Singularity Sunrise. Yes, I did back that too. I backed that for the whole series.
Nice.
There's my thing for Babylon Red. Let's see. Where the heck is it? Oh, contribution. Yep, here we go. Yes, I got the books 1 through 3 digital package.
Nice.
Yep. So yes, the first part of the series is funded somewhat. Ah,
You got that locked in.
yep. And again, I'll be sure to back everybody that I can, especially if you do have heroic characters, because I've seen a lot of the like David J. West and a few others. They do have heroic characters in grittier settings. They have characters that understand the value of certain kinds of virtues, which
Yeah.
I can appreciate.
Yeah.
I guess that's all I'm really saying for this evening. Is like, as long as you have a character that wants to do well by other characters, unlike Spencer from Skyward, oh god, she would be the perfect antagonist. Uh,
A lot of protagonists these days would make good antagonists.
and it's just like it's bad when you rather read about all the support characters rather than your main point of view character.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, Mr. Sanderson, I'm sorry, but I don't like Spencer whatsoever. I hope that she gets thrown into a black hole. She's that bad. But that's what they do to a lot of the teenage female protagonists nowadays. They make them abrasive
Yes.
to
Rude.
showcase their strength. It's like, no, you could showcase strength in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I would say that a lot of especially YA female characters are. They're abrasive and needlessly rude. Going back to that thing we said about the importance of like um, kindness, where um,
Yeah, his quote, every bit of kindness will build that kindness, and evil will build upon evil.
yes, that yes,
Somewhat to that effect. But yeah, Kit's right.
yep,
Every act of kind, it's kind of like that one commercial where it showcased the guy walking to work every day, watering the plant, helping the dog, helping the old lady, and eventually you see the plant bloom and everything else. So even little acts of kindness can build up.
yep. It's almost like they think that if a female character is kind, then she can't also be strong or something.
It's like, I'm glad that pretty much I haven't seen any really unfortunate female characters of that persuasion coming out of Pulp Rev whatsoever.
Oh,
Pulp Rev has a pretty good handle on how to make likable female characters.
yeah, yep. I the female characters like Paula Ritchie's Penance was so relatable. I felt
But not in the bad way relatable, as in check
right.
marks the spot.
like me personally felt like she was someone that I could connect with.
Yeah.
Someone I could stand to be in the same room with. Then that's saying something for YA female characters.
Oh, and Mr. Kit, if you do get around to listening to this, I hope you do more of your Heroes Unleashed series. I gave my brothers some copies before Silver Empire went under,
Oh,
and he enjoyed them too. So
nice.
I think he said he planned on having 5 or 6 books in that particular setup too.
Okay. I didn't know that he had written in the Heroes Unleashed series. That's really cool.
Yep, 2 books so far. But
Okay.
since the rights went back to everybody, I hope he does continue it eventually.
Yeah,
I'll understand if other stuff's on his plate though.
I wonder how that works with like the multiverse aspect. That's or is that how they
Uh,
say it?
I think they were eventually going to tie some people together, but they might still do so. But you don't have to pick up all the books on Heroes Unleashed to understand the setting, because
Right.
each book follows a different set of characters.
Yep. Yep.
Sometimes they have some wink and nods to other people, though. But it's not like a zigzag where you get confused.
Yep. Yep. Read this one first and then this one. Otherwise,
Oh man, and unfortunately, there are some book series like that. It's like, oh no,
yep.
oh no. I guess the reason why I did bond with a lot of the characters in this particular book, for Swordbreaker, is because they were each bringing a different aspect to the table. Where again, everything doesn't have to be explained or laid out all at once. I personally prefer when characters give little insight into the setting, you know, in bits and pieces. So that way I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed by everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't have to know everything. I like discovering things as the protagonists discover things too.
Yeah. Metered exposition, not long
Eh,
lectures.
Yeah, and as much as I love you, Mr. Weber, your exposition on all how the missiles go boom boom, I'm like, it's like okay, I'm going to get back to the characters now. But for all the nuts and bolts people out there, if you love that, it's Harrington is chock full of that too.
Yeah, I have to admit to skimming some of that when paragraphs get chunky.
Yeah, that's the reason why I try not to make stuff chunky, even in my own writing, because I want something easy for my eyes to follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the TLDR of this entire video, please go read more Pulp Rev. Links upon my social media account.
Oh, I have definitely drawn from the Pulp Rev pool for quite a number of titles for Periaps's Press.
Yep, and I even bought some books based on some blog recommendations. I'm like, wait, some guy was complaining about God, what was it? Yeah, I think I have it in here. I'm pretty sure I downloaded it during the sale, but he was upset that the anti-hero kind of teacher didn't have more screen time, and he thought the flat arc guy was boring. I'm like, thank you. I want more flat arc people. Let me go buy this book now.
Yeah, I am not as like sold, I guess, not as quite as gung ho about the flat arc as some of the people in our circle for sure. But like it's far better than somebody who has to start out unlikable and grow into somebody that I can tolerate.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that more. Okay, the only way I can really tolerate that setup is if it's in a side character where the
Yeah.
main character affects them enough to where they become more likable later on.
Yes.
Like that I can handle. I don't like having to follow a main character where they're miserable, sad sack from the
Right.
get go. It's just like, no.
Yeah, I don't need to be forced to, spend mental time with a character that is grading
Oh,
in the
here it
whole.
is. Yes, in Darkness Cast. Yes, because that one reviewer
Yes.
absolutely hated that main character for being like a goody two shoes flat arc guy.
Yep.
Well, would you been as impressed by his anti-hero teacher had he not existed?
Yep. Yep.
Compare and contrast usually helps propel a lot of these kind of ensemble dark horse characters to the forefront.
I In Darkness Cast was a great one, and there is that juxtaposition of the sort of classic anti-hero with your straight-laced, hero, And I think it makes some interesting thematic points as a result. But if someone else is complaining, I wish it was just the anti-hero, that it's a good situation.
Yep. So yeah, fellow writers, even if you do get like a 1 or 2 star review, sometimes those reviews can lead to more sales. I know it sucks, but to be like, oh, this person was so out of sync of what I wanted, but sometimes that helps other readers find what they want.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I would say a review that includes any sort of content description is a good review, regardless of the number of stars, because it's going to help people to see, oh, this has exactly the kind of content that I want, or this isn't for me, and then you don't get another one of those
Yep.
negative reviews.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that we can help Kit find even more readers.
Yeah, me too. Definitely deserved.
Oh man, my coffee is starting to run out.
Yeah, it's getting kind of late.
Yeah, I know. I look at it, it's like, wait, man, it's almost 1 a.m. for me. Woo! Well, granted, I usually don't go to sleep until about 2, but
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really had a lot of fun.
yeah, I didn't even realize it was that late. I'm just looking over. It's like, oh.
And maybe see you again in a month for
For awesome bunny samurai action on
yes.
a ship caught in deep space, but they don't know it's a ship. Maybe.
I've really enjoyed that one. My review is going to be a little late tomorrow, but
But my review is very biased. It's already up on Amazon. Am biased, very biased.
it's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. I will post who won the drawing later on Twitter or wherever.
Oh yes, that's right. I think D-Day Cohen was also talking about that.
Yeah. So I somebody who commented on Parapsis Press will be getting a physical copy of uh, Broken Sword here. So that's exciting. Will actually be on somebody's bookshelf, not just in a Kindle, but
Although that's my favorite way of carrying most books around, because otherwise I'd be in that episode of horror or Hoarders. My God, the house is filled with books.
A while back I posted a picture of my bookshelf and with like one of those like tell me what you think of me type things, and I don't remember who was just like, you've got too much junk and too much space. Like, you should fill it up with books. And it's like, no, I have a lot of books that are Kindle, but I have to have visual space and places. Like, otherwise, if I get another book, I don't know where it's gonna go.
That's also an advantage of the Kindle. You can make personalized collections so you can remember where stuff's at.
Yes. Yep. Oh, I got so much in the recent sale. I'm super excited.
I managed to pick up a few more because I was a little bit strapped for this part of now it's not June, yay! But yeah, because it's like, oh, septic tank repair, hello, because
Oh no.
we don't have like city water.
Sure.
All these houses that we're near, we have our own personal water well things. Had to
Yeah.
repair the whole septic tank. So most of my money went to regular basic gas and food.
Oh boy. Which is becoming a larger and larger slice of the pie every minute.
Woo! My parents drink $60 worth of milk a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm the milk lady.
Oh. All right. So I live in Wisconsin, and dairy products haven't really jumped in price at all. And I think it's probably because they don't have to ship it very far. Like the
Yeah, well, I think a gallon of milk is what, like 5.60 right now for us.
wow.
Yep. I mean,
Man.
if you get the store brand, you can get it for under $5.
Okay.
But where I work at, we have outside vendors that get us certain things. So it's just like, okay, time to bring home the milk from work because nobody else is open when we all get out
Yeah.
nowadays. Because Koof Koof made everybody close up around 10 o'clock for the most part, unless you're a gas station
Yeah.
or a random restaurant on Friday or Saturday.
I can't
Yay.
believe we're still dealing with stuff.
Uh,
Back to my
uh,
escapism. I gotta have it.
yeah, I mean, and I have to. And sadly, I've seen some indie books that put Koof Koof virus in their story. It's like, no, I
I,
don't want to be reminded of Koof Koof right now.
yeah.
Go away. Not even if it's in a zombie apocalypse story. It's like, oh no. Now the Pulp Rev guys, when they did the COVID like parody stuff like that, I didn't mind,
Yeah.
but because they were making fun of it.
Yeah.
But some people legitimately use COVID as a plot point, a serious plot point. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want the COVID to be one of the blocks that we're playing with here. Can we swap it out
No.
with something some more fun?
Yes, like cultivation. Cultivation is a lot more fun than I thought it would be.
Yes, very much so. Okay,
Ah.
I've got to let you go because my computer has told me that I'm almost out of battery and I'm nowhere near an outlet because
There
I
you
didn't
go.
plan that out.
That's okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep. You have a great night.
You too, and thank you for our one viewer. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you.
Don't worry. People will catch it on the replay because we are at a kind of an odd time.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, I got kids in bed at this point, so
Good night.
all right. Talk to you. Night.